Okay, well, I'm going to launch it off here. Let's do the big clap, right, David? I'm just kidding. I'm sure if I need to we may be using the video from one feed and the audio from the other, so I can pull out some more gray hair and post edit. Thanks you guys for getting on your Sunday afternoon with us. I appreciate it. I know I had said on day 2000 when we got together that I would try to get us maybe back together every quarter or whenever it seemed like there was something worthwhile to talk about. And it's the same crew as last time, except for I don't think Kyle was able to make it today. But hey, if you see him pop up, Don asking for permission to join, obviously let him in. He was maybe flying to New York today and had travel plans. So I didn't want to wait any longer because FSD beta 11.3.6 is up. We have on at least one car or more, and have some experiences with that. And so I thought that was one of the topics we could discuss today. Somehow last time we didn't get to talk about FSD. We talked about a whole lot of other things, but we never really talked about FSD. So.
Well, I want to immediately ask Adam about that Tesla gateway. What's that Tesla thing on the wall? Let's do that. Let's talk about that. That's way more interesting.
Yeah, that's just an inverter.
Oh, okay.
So how big is your array now? You told me you added some panels recently.
Yeah, that's the one I just added. So that's a 6.3, and then the silver box, the 12.
Okay.
Well, pretty soon you'll be like us, Andy. What are you, 40 kilowatt? Andy,
powering
runs his whole valley.
Yeah, we affectionately think of you powering the mountain. So
more is better.
Yeah,
more is better.
Oh, Don's license plate, more power.
More power.
More solar, more better.
Yeah.
So I didn't invite anybody new this time because I thought we were just starting to get in our group. I mean, Don and I obviously know all of you, and I'll let you guys go around in a minute and just briefly say who you are because, we know, but people tuning in might not know. And, I didn't want to have so many people on that everybody wouldn't get to say what they wanted to say. That's really frustrating to participate. So we'll try to take, breaks today and make sure everybody that has something they want to say gets to say it. You're welcome to, come mute me if we need to or whatever. But so I guess I'll kick it off. I'm Mary Ann Miller. I'm Don's wife. I'm the editor behind TeslaModelXJourney and the one that keeps us marching on recording videos because I like it and it's fun and it gives me something to do and all of that good stuff. And I drive Ruby the Model X at going on 6 years in June and 117,000 miles now. And we've had EAP or enhanced autopilot, not since we had the car, but we added it not long after. So, so significant miles on various levels, enough time on autopilot to really have watched it come a long way, I guess. And so you can go next, Don.
Oh, okay, sure. So I'm here doing whatever Marianne tells me to do. That's what I typically do.
Good answer.
I try not to stick my foot in my mouth too many times. I have a Model Y Performance. My wife insisted that I get the Performance one. And so I'm a lucky guy from that point of view. Have full self-driving, ordered it with the car. There's a difference between as a two Tesla family, the X and the Y, the landscape versus portrait, the controls on the stock and the one on the, it's just different. So, I have to say I have switched between cars and it does take me a while to remember which car I'm in to engage autopilot. But after that, it's good.
I'm just thinking we have 3 families here with a Y and an X.
Yeah, right. We're exceptions.
That's what we have. We have no 3 drivers or S drivers on today. David has a Y. Why don't you go next, Dave?
There's 2 women on this Tesla call. I mean, come on now. That's already like the 95th percentile. I mean,
well, you can't quite see it, but I have on my Divas, my Diva shirt. I don't really consider myself a diva, but the Tesla Divas, it's kind of got a nice ring to it. And there's a lot of active women out there, and Adam's wife drives Cinder, the Model Y now too. But David is local with me and Don, as in like the Raleigh area. Why don't you introduce yourself next and all of your Star Wars? The only other person I know that has as many Legos as I have.
Yes, as you can tell by the beautiful, and this is only part of them. I have others scattered throughout the house. But yeah, I'm David. I have a 2022 Tesla Model Y. I got in December of 21. I just about hit 15,000 miles on it, so I don't drive nearly as much as Marion does. But I love it. I have FSD, and I'm anxiously waiting for the Cybertruck to come.
Yeah.
And
I have my
Andy,
SpaceX shirt on today because tomorrow is the super heavy.
right. I was afraid. Well, I wasn't afraid. I wondered if you guys were going to pop up and go, yeah, that was nice. We were going to do the call tomorrow, but we're headed to Texas. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was looking at flights, but I have other work commitments during the week. So if it scrubs, I would be going down there for nothing. If it scrubs,
it's all but scrubbed, right? Because Elon said he expect about a 3 days delay, right?
Well, he was trying to say maybe 420.
420, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, of course.
Oh, okay. Now I get it.
I did get the 420, but I couldn't tell if he was really gonna, if that was sort of, if it scrubs, it will go
right
420 or what? Yeah. Okay.
So Andy and Jody,
we have an X and a Y, and he can give you all the details on that. We hail from Western North Carolina, and I do mostly rural driving and full self-driving. So that's an adventure in itself, because a lot of the hairpin turns up here, it gets unhappy with me. So
Or you get unhappy.
I get unhappy with it. Yeah.
Now we've got a 22 Flat X with 30,000 miles on it.
Wow.
We've done 3 cross-country trips in the X and 1 in the Y. And we've been to Florida.
For every Falcon.
Yeah, we've been to every Falcon Heavy. We're probably going to miss the one Tuesday. Will be our first failure at Falcon Heavy launches. We would go to Boca Chica, but it's, we can't take what might be 2 or 3 weeks to sit down there and wait for it to go off. So
yeah,
I guess we'll.
I
You've
think the
been
Falcon
there,
Heavy
right?
launch is going to be a
You've
completely
been to there on one of your cross-country drives. You popped in and walked around.
Right. We
spent 2 days looking at it.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah. 2 days.
worshiping it.
Yeah.
But we're notorious for just taking off. That trip was 6,800 miles and we had no plan. We just took off and went to Arizona and visited her mother, and then just said, after 4 days of visiting her, it's like, where do you want to go? And we were like, let's go to Boca Chica. So we just took off down through Texas and visited the Rocket Garden and everything we could see.
Well, Jody gets bonus wife points for, okay, sure, let's go there, right? Right. I think Jody gets bonus wife points for that.
Yeah.
Well, I love it. I mean, I think it's fun, and we will actually be in the area. We might be able to see it.
If it's delayed.
If it's delayed, we will be in the area.
We'll be in the Panhandle of Florida, which should be a pretty good,
Yeah.
stretch to be able to possibly see boost back and all that.
And of course, you get to do all those trips because of the supercharger network. That it's ubiquitous, basically, for travel cross country. It doesn't matter which direction you're going. There's always a supercharger on the way.
I don't think we have once had to say, well, we've got to go out of our way, can't go there, must alter, path.
Going around the Grand Canyon when there were fires, and trying to stick with superchargers.
But we didn't have
it was challenging. You can't say it was easy. It was.
I don't remember any.
There were
issues,
challenges.
but
Okay.
But we do have
Right.
we do have FSD on both cars, and I drive everywhere in it. From the minute I get in it, from the driveway to if I'm going 5 miles down the road or going 500 miles down the road, I drive 100% in FSD. That doesn't mean I don't correct it constantly, but you get better at knowing what it's going to do or anticipating what it's going to do and fail at. But I think personally, I'll just start it off by saying I think I have developed a skill with it that makes driving much, much safer. I think the more you drive in it, the more you get used to it. It does add a lot of layer of safety to it, to driving in general. But,
yeah, Adam, we're going to get your introduction here.
Yes, please.
Please. I'm Adam, live in Denver. I'm on the west side of Denver. So I've got a Model X 2020 Model X with full self-driving and all those nice free supercharger miles, which comes in handy. And then Michelle's got a Model Y Cinder that we got last summer that love, it's got FSD as well. Both cars do really well. So it's fun.
Well, I guess I have to get next then to stay with you guys.
Right.
Because I'm the only one just one Tesla.
But you almost did though. Like when the video where I showed up and put Ruby beside the new Red at Tesla, that's because David was over there like the day before,
Yeah.
and said, "Oh, there's one on the lot and it's ready for delivery." And I mean, I didn't want to take it home, but I did want to compare. So knowing that it was up there was helpful. And David said he was tempted for half a minute, but he really wants a Cybertruck. So I was like,
Yeah.
well, if you're looking for me to stop you from buying an X, you were talking to the wrong girl.
And it was cream interior. I would have to go with white.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the cream interior is not for me. Yeah,
No.
no. And all the ones on the lot except for one had cream and wood is what they were. There weren't any plaids. They were all long range as far as I could tell without. I was a little surprised, but it's not your everyday car lot. Nobody came out and asked me, do you want to take it for a test drive? Do you want to sit in it? Do you want to do anything with it? I'd like filming it and walking around and having a good time. And a couple of employees went past and they sort of waved, and I think they were the guys from the service side, not from the sales side, but still. So, well, I have a confession to make, but you guys already know I only use FSD about half the time. So I'm sort of guilty of knowing where it performs really well and engaging it there. And then like when I get to downtown Raleigh and I'm feeling like Johnny and I are late for school and the roads are narrow and people don't stay in their whole own lane and there's construction and all this other stuff, I don't really try to navigate across town with it. Then maybe after I drop Johnny off, I might do a street or two where I know it's not too crowded. But, I'm still developing my sense of security with it, my comfort level with it for downtown driving. Now, David tells me he drives downtown with it all the time. And I'm
It's
like,
actually very good downtown.
I can barely drive downtown with those crazy people and the big buses that take up more than their own lane. I'm like, maybe if I had Jules, I'd risk it, but not on days when I have Ruby. Jules is, I see Jules is more replaceable. So sorry.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I'd say out of the 110 miles a day, I'm probably driving 50 or 60 miles with it. And the other 40 are like, I just don't feel like dealing with it right now. Or when I feel like I'm in a rush, even if it takes the same amount of time for the car to drive as it does me, I start driving. So I have a lot of miles on FSD, but not necessarily continuous miles. So Adam, are you using it on Denver city streets, or are you just using it out on the highway? Or
The highway works really well here. I do like where Kyle runs up the curve. I live right by that, so we drive up that quite a bit, and it's fun. It does get better, and it's doing much better than what he showed back in the day. The car does great. It's the other people that are around the car that just don't want to deal with it. They want the car either is going too slow, too fast, something. There's always something that people don't like to deal with.
Human interaction with machinery and vice versa.
Yeah, the car does pretty well though. I mean, it's actually where it used to come flying into an intersection, and unregulated, just zip right through stuff, maybe overshoot it, and kind of overcorrect. It's doing really well. It plans ahead a little bit, and does its thing. We still have a problem with speed bumps. We don't recognize those anymore, so I like to run those at 30 miles an hour. But
it's really hit or miss on.
Well, I have it will go over the first one fast, and then it slows down for the subsequent ones.
Oh, yeah. Most of ours, or the dips, the same thing. And the car sees it, but you just got to grab it and fix it.
And you would think speed bumps would be one of the things that they could locate the
Or the
maps. I
mark.
realize they don't want to use maps, but you know, the speed bumps would be something, because there's going to be potholes coming up pretty soon. They're going to have to start knowing the exact location of hazards in the very near future. Otherwise, you know, Marianne said that one of our viewers just put you know, we had a flat on Ruby on Friday, and the video went out, and this morning she posted a comment to the gentleman that he just put 2 tires and 2 rims on because he hit a pothole.
A Raleigh driver with a S, and I think obviously that implication there was same side. He didn't say that, but that's the implication, right? You hit the darn pothole, and before you can correct and realize you're in deep doo-doo, you've hit the second one. It's kind of like the engineering explained guy had that rim. He had to replace a rim and a tire on his model, at least one on his Model 3 on a trip. Yeah.
Well, and even more basic than that is railroad crossings. I mean, those are on maps, and I do not understand why it wants to do 60 miles an hour.
It's
across
Dukes of
the
Hazzard, up in the air, the general V, I'm down on the, I mean, I've done, I mean, yeah. Well, I know a couple of tracks
say this.
Matter the speed, and then a couple of them are like, well, I guess we better disengage because I don't know about this one. This could be bad.
Well, I have a couple of beliefs that I think are true about the whole project. And I think FSD would be completely finished now and wrapped up if 2 things would happen. One is to put side view cameras in the front of the car. And to me, the logical place, the logical place to do it is in the headlights, because they could modify the headlight assembly. It doesn't change any of the coach work. The body in white stays the same. You just get a couple of cameras looking right and left up at the front of the car. The second and most important thing is they need to hire a person on the AI team that has a driver's license.
That's right.
And that has actually driven an automobile. I am convinced that all those 19-year-old brilliant kids that work on that team, that write all this amazing AI code and develop all this machine learning, not a one of them has ever driven an automobile. And if they would just hire somebody, go hire a driver's ed teacher to work on the team. And, you know, somebody old that has taught young people to drive. But
are you volunteering, Andy?
No.
You haven't taught too many people.
But if you think about it, I truly think there's some truth to that, because there's an awful lot of mistakes that the car makes that you just have to say to yourself, this is like being with a kid that has never driven a car, that does not understand certain fundamental things about how a car travels down a road or interacts at an intersection or does these basic things. And I don't have no other explanation for it.
And I'd also like to add that, you know, everybody who does drive and uses it is in California.
Yeah.
The weather's perfect. Start coming out east here and going, you know, through the heavy winters and stuff like that.
Why does my car stay in the left-hand lane?
Is that a California thing?
Why? Does yours do that too?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. Oh,
See, I like to stay in the left-hand lane. I hate getting, I go in the back lane and just
well,
go.
you ought to be able to put a preference, I guess. You know, aggressive, I understand if you're saying aggressive, maybe you're want to be in the left-hand lane and you're planning on doing 10 or 15 over and you're willing to get that speeding ticket, which I'm not. And, you know, but me, I just, every drive now I'm putting on minimal lane changes, and I put it on as soon as it moves me to the left the first time that I'm like, I don't want to be over here. Just leave me in the right-hand lane. I said the other day, if the, if the traffic is 10 mile an hour below, or there's a blockage in front that you can't get me around, then I understand moving me to the left-hand lane, but I have it on average. And I'm really not looking to jockey per position in rush hour traffic first thing in the morning. I'm just looking to tuck in on the right and hope the driver behind me is paying enough attention so that when we all slam on our brakes, and Ruby does a great job watching out for the person in front of me, that they don't hit me from behind. As I'm watching in the rearview mirror
all to myself, Marianne. I am the only person on the road. and my car will go into the left lane.
Yeah, well, she
Why?
moves me left in the morning, Jody, and I'm making a right-hand turn in 11 miles or 6 miles as I get closer to it. And she tells me I've got to change lanes to follow route, and she's moving me out of the right-hand lane, and it's a right-hand turn, and she moves me into the left lane. Now, to me, it's some code bug there that it cycles around to, I know I got to make a right turn, but I think that means I got to move left. I'm telling you, and it's not with just 11.3.6. It's been there for, it was there before 11 dot something. It was there prior to this big drop.
What I hate is like if it's a slow, like you're half mile from the turn and it's going really slow, it wants to go around on the left past the cars and try to get back in at the last second when, you know, half the times you can get back in that late without at least putting a ton of people off.
There's two things that I wonder about that. One is whether it's the way people drive in California or not, I don't know. But if you drive on a divided highway, a 4-lane, it's worse where it's kind of, it is controlled access, but where there are driveways and small roads coming in to approaching the 4-lane. And perhaps the logic, if there is such a thing, is that if you get in the left lane, you're allowing people to turn, make a right turn into that oncoming traffic. But you know, we don't drive that way, and I don't. At least 100 years ago, when I took driver's ed, I was always taught that you stay in the right lane, except pass, even on a divided highway.
He would have been very upset if I'd have been staying over in the left lane. He would have fussed at me. Yeah.
But there's a road, a 4-lane divided highway that we take to go to Boone. And there's a ramp that ramps off to the right to head off to, you know, at an overpass to head off towards Boone. And the map is correct. It shows going down the ramp, but literally a quarter of a mile or less from that right-hand turn, it will get in the left lane and it will go right past it. And even though there it is, its navigation's got it right. Why is the car pulling over into the left lane? But it'll do it whether there's anybody else on the road or not. It does it every time.
Well, you know, when I'm coming out of Raleigh in the afternoon and I've navigated home, you know, for a little bit, I turn it off now because literally the way I come through town, the way I prefer to come through town, I don't have to tell it where I'm going until I get by South Park. Now I have plowed past my turn thinking the car was going to turn for me because I didn't put it back on. But then I put it back on and I have so much of a clean, normal, not irritated driving experience when I just don't have to tell it where I'm going and it just stays straight on whatever the highway it is. And that's even coming through town and the parallel cars and the pedestrians and really does great. But if I navigate to the house and she tries to make that left turn onto Judd Parkway, or if I navigate after Judd Park, you know, she's making all of these decisions based on the route that you've chosen, and they are really hurting my FSD experience. It's like FSD is great. FSD and navigation together are not so good. So Adam, you chime in. Are you having any fights with navigation and messing up causing you to disengage like we are?
I think the problem we've been having here is in the evenings, like on the Model Y, the camera keeps shutting off and car goes into alert and makes us take control. So it's kind of that's the only one we're fighting with. Yeah. But otherwise, no, it does pretty well. Like I said, the staying on the highways and stuff, our roads here, you know, everybody's roads are different. Ours are pretty straight. We don't have the railroad crossings. We don't have a lot of the stuff. We have a few, but not where I'm at. Our twisting mountain roads, I don't use the FSD on that quite, you know, very much because those are pretty narrow roads. It's much more fun to drive an electric car by yourself on the twisty road anyway. So
Amen.
So, yeah, but I-70, it does really well. Going up to mountain, it does quite well. So then from here to Fort Collins or from here south, the car does really well. So.
Well, people said that this new, what are we on, Marianne? We're on
11.3.6.
Yeah, is a big improvement. I gotta tell you, I've noticed it's slightly more aggressive, taking off. But I haven't noticed, the same kind of things that scare me to death before. They still scare me to death. I guess we're getting close to that point where the way, as an older, a long time driver, the way that I drive and the way that the computer, the new 21st century driver drives is not the same. And they're just starting off on a different foot. And so I don't know if that's really the case, because it's done some things that drive going into the left lane. I think your point's valid, Andy, that maybe because it's not controlled access, but of course it still gets over on controlled access. And I was doing the mountain roads. Now, I did not have this latest one, but it was FSD. It was the one prior to this. And it couldn't stay on its side of the road on those twisty mountain roads. It's absolutely, Jody, scared me to death.
He was coming out of Johnson City, Tennessee a couple weekends ago with Ruby, and you were on 11.3.3, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. And it was like, I turned it off. I just used traffic aware cruise control at that point because it was too scary, and I swear on every tight turn, there was already a car right on the yellow lane going the opposite head on, coming on. And it's like, and you want to get right onto the yellow line. I still say it has a preference for the center of the road and stay away from the right. And I'm sure there's statistics that show that there's more accidents, people running off the road than crossing the yellow line a little bit.
If you think about it, it's not even, it's statistics, but you have another variable avoiding a car coming at you with the yellow line. The white line on the right side, if you go off and there's no road there, you're gone. With the yellow line, if you encroach on it or they encroach on it, you've got another human, for the most part, or maybe an FSD car that can react to give you room, to give you forgiveness. Right. So I think historically the code was biased to the yellow line for that, that forgiveness would be there. But the latest, I think with .11, I'm feeling more of it trying to bias to the right. But we live in the mountains. I drive the windiest, craziest road. I drive gravel roads in it. And but there's one thing I wanted to ask y'all, and I haven't driven the Y lately to know, but in the Ys and in your older X, do you have to hit the stalk twice to engage, or is there an option to do a single?
No, you got to do double.
Okay, see,
double, as far as I know, is the only option.
In the Plaid, you can set it to you push the thumb wheel on the right. We don't have stalks, but you can set it to engage FSD by one push. So I think part of it in that is that I'm more likely to put it in and take it out quickly because it's just a push of a button and you're right back in. So if I have to snatch it out to correct, a lane variance or something crazy it's doing, I can pop it right back in. So I think that's made it more useful. But then there's a flip side of that, and Jody's run into this, and I think it's a bad mistake. In the X, if you kick it out of FSD, traffic aware cruise control just goes away too. It completely goes 100% manual driving. In the Y, it does not do that.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't do that in my car either. I'm still in cruise control at a constant speed if I get kicked out of FSD in the old X.
And it's bad because you snatched it out and you don't and you've got your foot on the accelerator, and the minute you let off, it goes back to cruise. So, if you're pulling, like she's done it here, she'll pull into the driveway and snatch it out of FSD, and she's got her foot on the accelerator a little bit, and she goes to let off to slow down to go in the driveway, and suddenly it goes to 30 miles an hour
into the garage.
And I've felt it too, but that's stupid. But in the X, it's not that way. If you disengage by any means, if you just snap the steering, the traffic aware cruise control, everything shuts off, and it's much, much safer and much, much more user friendly, in my opinion.
Yeah, I
I don't know why.
Well, I have found myself a few times no longer in autopilot, still in traffic aware cruise control, kind of shocked that I'm not driving the car.
Yep.
Yet straight enough that I haven't noticed. That happens once a week. Does that scare you? I mean,
Yeah.
but it does. It so I like am very, and it's easier for me because I have the driver instrument cluster in the X to be looking at the little, you know, things. Am I in cruise? Am I not in cruise? I really, a verbal command from the car, you've engaged autopilot. You're now in traffic aware cruise control. And me to be safe for them relying on me, because I'm like, God, we're going straight down the road and I'm supposed to be driving and I'm no longer in autopilot. I'm in traffic aware cruise control. Thank God the tires are balanced and I'm on a straight road, because I really didn't hear the chime that said that it disengaged. It happens all the time.
What I'd like them to bring back, I remember in the older versions, when you were in traffic aware cruise control, the little steering wheel just had a ring around it. And then when you went into FSD, it all blue. Now, when you're just in traffic aware cruise control, it's not right. You don't see anything
It
around
was better before. The icon was better before they made it better.
It's just what you just see is that the max is lit up, right, in blue. That's the only indicator to me. Is that what y'all see too? Is just the
Yeah.
But I wish they would go keep that, you know, let at least, or have a different icon on the screen saying you're in traffic aware cruise control compared to FSD.
But I contend it's still better if you snatch it out, everything should give up. You should go on.
Oh, I agree.
Well, I theorized, Andy, that they didn't want a sudden reduction in speed if your foot wasn't near the accelerator. Like you've been on the interstate and your foot, you know, they didn't, the regen braking kick in and slow you abruptly with the guy behind you. I theorized that's why they throw you into traffic aware cruise control. But
okay, then, but why is it, if you're right about that, why are they building a Plaid? My Plaid X doesn't do that. It goes completely out. It cancels everything, which I'll tell you.
The guys that built the program for the Plaid that didn't work on the other cars, and they don't know it's working different.
Well, you know what? You can hit the button and do bug report and say,
I finally found out about that. I disengaged Jules because I had a driver Friday, because that's the first time downtown with 11.6 because of Ruby's flat tire. And it said, would you like to let them, whatever the wording is, would you like to hit the voicey thing and tell them that what the problem was? And I'm like, darn toot, I want to tell them this thing's been driving. Ruby doesn't prompt me. And I've hit the voice thing and it won't take a report from, I could do a bug report, but the thing prompting you to say, I know you just disengaged, hit the talk button and let me know what went wrong. Ruby doesn't do that.
Yeah, I got that
one. So I started with Jules and all those places. Let's just say I drive the Y and the X on the same roads and they do exactly the same thing wrong. And they do exactly the same thing right. So when I was in Jules, she was having the Y, it was having the same problem with navigation that I was having in Ruby the X. So I started letting Tesla know about it. Not that it made me feel better, even though it probably didn't do me any good.
So
they are very consistent. Would you agree, Adam, between the two cars, the X and the Y, if you're driving the FSD in one or the other, I find them to be really similar. Now, maybe, Andy, I want to put you through a test, Andy, where you have to drive a new X, my old X, and the Y with 3 different controls. Let's do a test.
Yeah, it's the controls that, like Don was saying, I think that's the hardest part.
Yeah.
Is the first few minutes it's like you're lost in the setup, but after that it's similar.
I sort of wondered why Tesla didn't make a Bluetooth dongle, a little fake stock that you could stick on the Y or the 3 that acts like the S and the X, the old S and the X, that would pair to the computer, because really all you're doing is just engaging and disengaging there. It doesn't have to be hardwired, but that would help those of us that have to switch between the cars, because I find it. And I would like to put my vote into, I would like both of them. When you disengage, give me 100% control of the car. I don't want half control of the car. I want 100%. But so I'm with you, Andy. I would like if I disengage it, I don't mind if my foot is or isn't on the accelerator. I can deal with it.
And you if you know that, you're going to instinctively hit the accelerator. You know,
That's
it's not
right.
like you're going to leave it hanging.
Yeah.
Well, what I try to do now is try to remember if I disengage, I also flip up on the stalk so it disengages it completely. But that's trying to get a memory to do that now.
Yeah.
But you know, I never hit the stalk to disengage. I only brake or jerk the wheel.
Really? I disengage with the
I
stalk
have to
all the
actually
time.
think, okay, in Ruby, it's pushed the stalk forward. I mean, actually, that's not as much as I love the left-handed driving only and Ruby stalk on the left, which is one reason why I don't prefer the Y or the newer controls, because I have left-hand driving and I have my hand on the wheel and I can engage or adjust the speed from that left stalk. But somehow the pushing forward to totally get out, it's very rare that I would do that. And then I'm having to think, okay, my foot had better be on the accelerator when I do, or the car's going to slow down really quick. So there's a little bit more of a thought process for me there, I think.
Yeah, if I'm disengaging, I use the stalk. I try not to hit the brake because sometimes I could be just going the speed and I have my foot over the pedal. I just disengage it and I keep going.
So which way? Up, David, on the Y?
Yep.
Yep.
Oh,
So if you do up, it takes it right out and completely.
All the time.
okay.
Well, just wait till Elon takes your stalks away like he has me and gives you a yoke that you can't get your hands on. And
So are you
definitely
converting
go.
the yoke, Andy? Are you in the wait list to go get a real wheel?
Well, actually, the mode I'm in that I think most people are, the yokes don't last. You know, the fake leather falls apart on them. Mine's starting to peel like everybody's does.
Really?
And, oh yeah, you can't get more than 30,000 miles out of one of them without it coming apart. So it's a known issue, and they're ready to replace it. But then I had an appointment set up to do it, and just last week, the rumor mill, something on YouTube, whatever, they come out with a new improved one. They're fixing the problem. So I really don't want to get it fixed if they've got a new one coming.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I've gotten used to the yoke. And I will say this about the yoke is as much as I drive an FSD, it's easier to babysit the nag with the yoke than it is with a round wheel. Now it's more difficult to correct FSD's failures, like, making a turn wrong or something, because you're trying to find the yoke. Whereas with the wheel, it spins through your hand. But, I'm hoping the next step will be that they go away from the nag, that they depend upon the camera to make sure you're staying focused, because I have no doubt that having to keep your hand loosely on the wheel or to torque the wheel or do something is just enough to make FSD ineffective. We've all done it. You're trying to hold some tension and the wheel goes to turn and you snap it out.
Yeah.
That type of thing. We still need to be paying attention. We still need to be responsible, but especially with the yoke, it's very difficult to keep that little bit of torque on the wheel when you've only got that one point to hold on to.
Well, I noticed the nag has gone way down. They stop nagging you every 30 seconds now. Now you can go probably 90 seconds to 2 minutes. But
I tell you, I got at least a dozen, this is no exaggeration, a dozen beeps driving Johnny home a week ago Thursday with I had the newest FSD, because I was sleepy, and I swear every time I closed my eyes for a second, it would beep. So they are watching your eyes. It was enough that I was thinking maybe I should go up there and get my my glasses, because you're driving the car. I realized that was not safe, but God, I've often done this, but this time now I get the nag. Not the nag, it's the honest to God, beep beep type, wake up. So they're watching your eyes like a hawk. So I guess at that point, what I'm really trying to get to is Andy, I don't see why we still have to have our hands on the wheel. The thing tracks your eyes plenty well enough. It knows exactly what you're doing. So I think they ought to be turning that off.
When I drive Jules, that is not my current experience, but I'm just going to leave it there.
So,
And in Ruby, I don't have a camera, and I could care less about the guys at Tesla watching any clothing adjustments, nose adjustments, or anything else I do in the car.
But you don't pick your nose on camera?
No, but just don't pay attention to my phone. Just leave a girl alone in her car. Just leave me alone. So Ruby doesn't have a camera, and thank goodness Jules doesn't currently seem to care. So I did this, Andy, because no, I don't want more camera. I got enough problem with the steering wheel nag now, but I guess I'm sort of protected in Ruby.
Well, I think
there's no internal camera.
I'm noticing less nag, not because I put torque on the steering wheel. If I'm paying attention, I have my eyes open, the steering wheel nag goes way down now. And I have a yoke on my Model Y, and I just keep one hand on the corner, and it just keeps enough tension that, you know.
Yeah. Well, in my case, with that nagging, I mean, literally, it would have beeped at me. I would have opened my eyes, got my hands on the wheel. 5 seconds later, my eyes closed again. So, I mean, I would get nagged sometimes within a 10 to 15 second, one nag and the other nag within that 15 seconds. That's how quick it was like watching me like a hawk.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry I sent you downtown when you were that sleepy.
It was the sun, it's the same thing. You get, the sun hits you, you get all warm, and
I pull over once or twice a month on the way home in the afternoon and either get out and walk around the car or go into a Walmart or even close my eyes and fall asleep for 3 minutes and then get Johnny, and he just knows. I'm like, I'm sorry, Johnny, I don't feel alert enough. I need to pull over for a few minutes. It happens. You're right. We're going into the sun on that particular drive. It's that time of day. We didn't get enough sleep the night before. I know all about it, but I haven't had the car nag me over it. Well, because Ruby can't nag me. She can't see.
Yeah, well, you just take Jules to get in that scenario. I bet you Jules will nag you.
Well, I'll say this, though. The 5 years that we've had Teslas and been driving electric cars, I have fallen asleep more or not at all in these cars than I never did it in any other automobile. Probably as much because you were actively driving the whole time. You were steering and you had none of these aids. But when you compound the various levels of FSD that we've had over the last 5 years, the smoothness and quietness of the car, it's just a recipe to fall asleep. I'm sorry, but and I've not at all many times in these cars.
It has nothing to do with being a few years older.
Well, I was waiting for you to point that out.
I always just
look in like 1995 in my Acura Integra GS, I went through a red light because I fell asleep. So I have a history of falling asleep behind the wheel. That was pretty scary. It made an impression on me. It doesn't stop me from getting tired behind the wheel. It does kind of encourage me that, that was probably my one time in my life I really should, if I'm feeling that sleepy, just park and get out of the car, do something for a few minutes and make some changes. So, I think I go from hyper vigilant because, oh my God, I'm using FSD and I've got to babysit, to I'm on the highway and the car is so awesome out here. Because, most of the complaints we have about FSD are city streets, which nobody else is doing but Tesla. I mean, we got Blue Cruise out on the highway and it lane centers pretty good on those subset of roads that it's on. And we're all really happy with the highway. It's we probably feel pretty secure. It's going to stay in its lane and do its thing. So yeah, out there I'm more complacent, but on city streets, I'm like, man, look at Don. He's like so stressed out sometimes. It's like,
I'm hyper.
Whenever to the other side of Fuquay, and he's nervous about falling asleep.
I'm hyper vigilant because I am really in tune. It's only when we get in those situations where it's 4-lane road out, no real traffic lights. You're doing 55 miles an hour and the sun hit, and that's it. It's not the, oh, well, it's going to make an unprotected left turn up here. Let me assure you, I see every little thing it's trying to do. Even a right turn scares me to death. So I'm awake. I'm hyper vigilant when it's actually doing something. The just monotonous of going down the road. I admit, I guess I'm subject to falling asleep. And I think I've always had a little bit of trouble falling asleep, but it's always been right after I get in the car. I'm at work. I get off of work. It's been a rough day, a lot of stress. I get in the car. I get on the road, and in a few minutes, I relax. The stress bleeds away, and that's what causes me to nod off. That historically is the scenario.
He's talking about right before he retired from IBM.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I could get in the car and drive from here to Charlotte and it wouldn't bother me a bit. You know, in a normal that never had that. Mine was always somewhat related to de-stressing it, because I always found driving the car very relaxing.
Because the seats are so comfortable.
Yeah.
I am very comfortable in my
get in
my
it,
X
just-
seats are perfect for me, but I understand you love them or you hate them, or the different seats. I mean, mine are good for me.
Well, I saw where Sandy Monroe, didn't they build the swivel chairs?
Yeah, they built a
in his
desk chair
office?
out of one.
Yeah.
Like, sell those.
Smart guy.
I would buy it to replace this chair I have right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been looking at that seriously, but
Yeah, those seats are very
Well, I'm not
comfortable.
in too much trouble, Andy, about bringing up the fall to sleep thing, right?
I do want. What about? Have you all noticed a difference when you're driving into the sun and you're not being able to engage full self
I get that
driving?
more often now. Yeah.
The
I feel-
activation issue is a known thing. Like today, I had to go up, do a couple errands, and it was there, and I hit it, and the wheel went away, and then came right back, and it took me like 2-3 tries to get in engaged.
I've seen an increase, I think, with the update.
but I agree with you, but I don't think it's sun related. I'll tell you what I've noticed is if you disengage a couple of times pretty quickly, like the car's doing something wrong and you disengage and engage and disengage, it seems to put it in that mode. And matter of fact, it got so bad on me one time, I had to stop and put it in park and go again. And then immediately it wasn't doing what you were talking about, you know, where the wheel would appear and the minute you hit it, it would disappear. It worked. And it's
For me,
almost
this
like,
was pulling out of my driveway, so
Yeah, I've
Car
got
was
the
pretty-
cameras blinded.
I have not related. Sorry, Adam, you go.
No, when I've had it, it'll tell you that the cameras are blinded. It'll either be the pillar or
That's
the
what I'm
front.
talking about, that I've seen an
Yeah.
increase of, is it's
Right.
telling me that it's been
the
blind.
camera's blind.
Right.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is there are times where that's not even happening. It just won't let you go to engage and you'll see
Sometimes.
it. On mine, it says the yoke is there. So you push the button and it beeps at you and says not available. And
Yeah,
then
that's
it'll appear.
happening
You
all
hit
the
it.
time to me.
that a
That
lot of people
happens
are complaining
15
about
times
that.
a day out of 110 miles when I've had a disengagement. I'm trying to get back in, it won't engage. Judd Parkway, but I would say, Andy, I don't think it's related to the light. It happens on the same roads in the same spots that I'm driving every day. So I kind of know not even to bother to try in this stretch, or the second it pops up. I mean, you got to be super fast to do 2 taps on Ruby to get it engaged. I think it's a bug. I don't know I don't know what happened, but I think it's a bug, and apparently one that they haven't acknowledged that didn't fix in 11.3.6.
Well, I can't wait till I get my speed limit, my 5-mile-an-hour speed limit sign, and put it up on my driveway, because I'm telling you, baby, it's driving the driveway full. This version of FSD that has no problem with our
25
driveway.
mph, baby, all the way.
Well, if it
Well, I
would
can't
just
wait
not
to
be
come over and
25 down the
try that.
driveway, we'd be good.
Every time I come by, I try to see if FSD will take me up your driveway. It won't. So
Well, it will now.
Well,
Well, it'll stop, David, but what you got to do is when it stops at the bottom of the driveway, then you just don't jerk it out, give it some acceleration, and it will start to continue on up. It stops where navigation ends, which is the end of the driveway. But just don't take it out and try to give it
You have to-
gentle and acceleration.
But when you navigate to go somewhere, we're leaving home and we're going somewhere, and I've got navigation set, it will drive down the driveway. Just like in a parking lot, it will take you out of the parking lot. It's the same concept. So that is a change that I have noticed, that
Right.
Other than the fact it likes to do it at 25 miles an hour, and anything much more than 8 miles an hour is probably too fast on our driveway. It has no problem, because somehow or another you can now see our driveway on Google Maps.
Mhm.
It knows, Google knows our driveway exists now. That it's long, it has a couple curves in it. It knows it's there.
Wow.
Well, that's a third element that I think they're missing the boat on with all this is, I think it's insane to think that you're going to develop an AI machine learning process that has no memory.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole thing is supposed to be mimicking the human mind.
Yeah.
And, you know, the cars drive like they've got Alzheimer's, advanced
right.
Alzheimer's. And, you know, memory is cheap and small and light. Why in the world doesn't the car have a solid state drive in it that at least learns your driveway, you know, learns an intersection that you go, or, you know, we've got a mapping error that we leave out of here. It won't take a ramp. It tries to take you 2 miles around a gravel road to get back onto the, you know, and you snatch it out and make the right turn, and the maps get it. The map shows it. It's like, why can't memory be added to this? I know you can't memorize everything, but nor can the human mind. But if it's something you do over and over and over again, you do develop some memory. Why are they hamstringing the thing by giving it no memory?
A perfect example of that, in Durham, they built a new little expressway that, you know, instead of taking 147 all the way up, you can cut over to 70 real easy. It's like a mile-long highway expressway cutover. It's on the map. It shows on Google Maps, but Tesla's not aware of it. It wants to take you all. And then I was on that road, and I'm doing 65 miles an hour. It's telling me, take a left here. I'm on a highway. I can't take a left.
Right. I think that's 885, isn't it? Something like that. Yeah. I mean, I've gone to Durham. It's every time we get a new road added, it takes a minimum of 6 months before it rolls out to the cars to know about the new road. And I've saw it with the Judd Parkway loop where they completed the circle around Fuquay. They thought we were out in the middle of a field.
Yeah.
Finally, like, amen, hallelujah, the day that it actually knew that we weren't in the middle of a field. We couldn't beta, we couldn't, you know, drive home with navigation through there. And I've had, well, I just stay on 147 because it's easier, David. I don't want to fight the navigation. I'll just go 3 miles out of my way and just go the old way.
Well, I also noticed too, like with the map updates, like I was saying this on our Zoom call the other night, like the area, like where I go to pick up my dog's food and stuff, it still shows as an empty field that there's a shopping center being built there, but it's not built yet. Meanwhile, it's been up for 3 years now?
Right.
And it's still just showing an empty field. So I don't know how much, they're updating the maps, even though I got a map update the other day, but it's still showing a lot of old.
Yeah, I would really like to have an explanation as to why. I mean, maybe there's a good one, but why does it take so long for new roads to correctly show up in the cars? It would be in my top 5 list of questions. That and can you please just clue us in on the alien abduction that's happening on certain roads where it's not a phantom brake, but every Tesla that comes through there slows down in that spot. I just need to know. I need to know.
Well, I tell you, I do know some anecdotal things about that. Because the time we've owned Teslas and had FSD all along, they were building 4-lane roads in our areas, and there were sections where they put up those stoplights, you know, where you had to stop for oncoming traffic, or you know, where the construction speed was dropped down. That is in some memory profile. Whether it was written into the maps, I don't know. But you'll be on the completed 4-lane highway, and it's that same spot exactly. It'll drop down to 35 miles an hour, and you can ride on a little bit, and it'll pick right back up.
Well, you know, that makes complete sense, Andy, because we're coming down 540 to the end of the current end of 540, and one of these slowdowns is that Viridia Parkway, which is the exit before the Highway 55 Fuquay exit. And that must have been the end of the road at some point. And
At
so
one
to
point.
say that you're got to slow down to 35 there probably you're right. But the thing of it is that, you know, I know a lot of these gripes that we have are issues, and you know, I know that they don't need urgent, immediate fixes, but when you have every car on the interstate slowing down at that spot over 20 mile an hour, I know our friend Richard up in Chicago, he's often won't use FSD on the way to work because he can't. There's one spot every morning goes from 65 to 45. And the guys behind him want to run him over. And it's like, well, I can't use FSD out there. And it's every single drive in that same spot. That's kind of an urgent thing to fix. As an owner, I really want to be able to push up. You know, I understand people may not make good judgment calls on what they think is urgent or not. But to me, you know, I've owned my car for 5 years. I got a 5-year owner Chit, you know, up here. Like, if I say this is an urgent issue, Tesla, could you not at least let some of the owners coming through the area report something up to somebody? I mean, even if we tell the local owners group about it, and, you know, our president or our organization has a little bit of ability to push some things up, still probably can't get that addressed. So that would be nice. Have you experienced that, Adam? Do you have a spot in your neck of the woods where you're driving down the road and both cars always slow? Have you seen that? Or is that you don't experience that either?
No, come move to North Carolina, please. You'll be welcome.
There's a spot between our house and Sanford down the back country road. I guess what is it on, Donnie? Is it on 401?
42, yeah, every time.
Every time out there, we've shown it multiple times. It's a 2-lane highway. Maybe in that case they had, you know, road construction there where a bridge was or something at some point and changed in maps or whatever. But
maybe Adam doesn't experience it because everything flows from west to east. So all of those corrections have been fixed. We're the last.
I don't know. I do still have the fan and braking, so that does happen every now and then in certain places. But that's more random. It doesn't do it in the same place every time.
Oh, really?
So-
okay, well, I think do you have a spot, David, where you slow down every time you go through it?
No,
Okay, well, I know
that's why I
me
want to
and
do an
Dawn
A/B
and me
test
and
with
Jody
you guys
do,
one
and-
day and go down that one spot where you hit the construction area and see
Well,
if
the
I
local-
do it.
Yeah, the local owners group has put on Facebook and in the old Slack chat about that spot at Viridia Parkway. So, I mean, it's a known, if you're a Tesla person in the area, that the car is going to slow in that spot. So at least in that case, you know, to be prepared for. And it's certainly not what I would consider a phantom brake where there's a shadow over a highway or something, although it was near the overpass, but still it's really not. Could be bright sun, you know, it happens when you're not near the shadow. It's definitely not that kind of a thing. So, but I know we were talking like conspiracy theories one time, Andy, like, could it be like 5G or is there some, you know, interrupting signal thing going on? This was like 2 or 3 years ago. You talked with Don about it. Like, what?
Well, we had radar then. We had radar.
Yeah,
So it was kind of like a radar picking something up.
Right.
But I think part of this is the whole system has been built and torn down and built again and torn down again. You know, they reach these local maximums and they have all these terms for it, but you know, I've done enough programming and worked with things, you know, you work and work and work and you think you're getting somewhere. And then all of a sudden you realize this isn't where I'm not going to get there, and you got to start over. But I think you get some remnants, some artifacts that are still there. And you know, because for one thing, the navigation, what we were just talking about, where it won't take the ramp. About 2 or 3 years ago, it fixed it. It was doing it, and then that went completely away, and we're right back to this. And so I think there is some of that going on. That's my only.
I'll say I just noticed this with 11.3.6. Like the other day when we had that torrential downpours coming through on Friday, I had to go to Durham to meet with a client. Coming back, it was raining so hard you could barely see out the windshield. But FSD took me all the way back home. No disengagements, no interventions. It did perfect. Today, going up to Target, you know, this morning, I was disengaging it every like 20 seconds because it's like not getting in the correct turn lane or, it's driving right past the turn. When I got off the highway, I need to make a right, but staying in more of a left lane when right lane was wide open. So it's
Right,
like
it does
it's
seem
doing
to
great
have
in
bad
some
days.
things and then it's regressing in other things. So
Well, you know, robots in the industry, they often have a joystick control where you teach the robot, it runs the program and it gets to a certain spot, then you add a little bit more to it, and it runs the program and it gets to a certain spot and you add a little bit more to it using the joysticks. I can't see how they're going to get our car into the garage, either one of our stalls of our garage, without having a teaching mode. All right, we are going to learn how, Don, to get into the garage. We want you to take control, and then we're going to open the garage. You're going to, everything you do, I'm going to do it, and then park it, and then I'm going to back out, and I'll let you go. I don't know how they're going to do that.
I think they already have it because they run shadow mode on everything in these cars. So I think that part's there. What lacks is the memory. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
You've shown the car how to pull into your driveway 1,000 times.
That's right.
But it's just not being retained. It's like, here's something this car needs to learn and needs to remember.
well,
I'm ready for it to pull itself in and out of the garage.
I am too.
I mean, I don't know, when you
You don't like going out every morning and having to take the car out?
No. If Ford is making this horrendously big to do about Consumer Reports, and Blue Cruise did something, has been approved somewhere in some state.
The UK, I told you about it. Yeah, the
What
UK now for a select highway. Yes.
Yeah, for 3 miles of a select highway under 40 miles an hour, it'll work.
Yeah, all these things, and they're making this. Let me tell you, if you could just pull your car up in front of the garage and get out and tell it to park it, and then the next day when you get ready to go, you say, "Hey, back the car out, please." Tell Tesla to back the car out, and it's sitting there waiting for you. You would blow people away.
Yeah, and since you're training it, you could put it in the preferred Marianne Load Ruby spot, backed up right there to the boardwalk.
I would accept it, just backs it out and stops squared up with the garage door, but 4 feet away from the garage. I would accept that. It doesn't have to do the maneuver right turn to get itself adjusted to head down the driveway. It could just simply go in and out. Let's start with that. But absolutely, I would expect a couple years from now that it literally has the preferred parking place. It's already oriented so that she runs down the walkway, she jumps in her car, and boom, she's gone. That's what she likes to do.
Well, I noticed with 11.3, the smart parking, has come back again. And I tried it a couple of times, just failed both times to get like partway through. And they said, nope, I can't do it. Take over.
Huh.
Yeah. So, and I want a button.
John hasn't tried it in a while. Yeah.
And I tried it in wide open. There were spaces either around me, and just to okay, go, and then just couldn't do it.
I don't know why there isn't a park now. When you pull the car and you ought to be able to double tack the stock. I don't know what you do.
The reason I'm in this parking lot is because I want to park the car. Boom, go park.
Right. Then it shows all the lines, all the possible places.
It's just right
that you
for
can
it.
park.
So it might grace
touch
you with
the
the
one you
ability
want.
to park.
Well, you need one to say park it, but park as far corner so no one's near my car.
Well, that works for me. I'd accept that. Well, we said the other day, I dropped Mary off in front of Harris Teeter, and I said, the businesses need to think about this, because forget what Teslas will do, but even all these autonomous cars are supposed to take over. People are not going to want to be dropped off over here at the street and walk all the way across the parking lot to get to the front door. They're going to want to be dropped off at the front door. And all these businesses, grocery stores or whatever, they need to, it's like the churches. The churches, there used to be a line at the church I used to go to where the people would, on rainy days, they'd pull up and people would get out because, the ladies, they got all their dresses and all that stuff. And then the guy go park the car. And basically we're going to need a canopy, a place where a covered drop-off place and pickup place. And it's more than room for one.
I got really mad and I had to cut out part of the video because
Busted.
it was raining and Don was dropping me off at Harris Teeter and picking me up, but going to park away from the door. And 3 big cars, at least one Suburban, they had dropped off their person and then they had parked right there in the fire zone to wait
They
for the
stayed
person
in the
to come
in
out.
that spot.
Now, look, I don't expect people going inside to have to walk through the lot in the rain if they have somebody that can drop them off. No problem. Get out, do what you need to do, but then your driver go, you know, that's why we have phones where we can text. Don had 3 messages that day, ready, and he just, when he hears ready, it wakes him up, and he comes back up to the front of the store and he grabs me, you know. But I may have said an unkind word about my fellow man about, because they were preventing Don from pulling up to get me because they were parked in the fire lane, and I just like, they weren't getting wet, but they wouldn't go park their car. So you're pointing at Andy. Jody explained, like he provides.
He immediately, he'll drop me off and then he goes and parks. I mean,
Yeah.
and away from the, you know, the door.
Yeah.
Well, then
Yeah.
this Harris Teeter lot, there's no place to go that's away, but you can at least not be at the curb in the fire lane, blocking other people for dropping off their family members. And so, yeah. But that happened the other day. Like loaded up the groceries and was not happy.
Did you get some
So
Tourette's there, Mary?
Huh?
You got some Tourette's?
Right. Well, I had Jersey Girl
Jersey came
in the
out,
middle of
huh?
the Harris
Jersey Girl,
Teeter
that's
parking
right.
lot. That's my excuse, right? I try to keep it tame, but it wasn't. I was ready to go knock on the window. Hey, you know, you need to go park your car away from the building or something. But you know, those things we want to do that we don't do, that we in our head is what we want to do, but we mature and we don't do those things. And so
I still do them sometimes.
well, if I get close, David, Don jerks me and puts me in Southern Alabama mode, and then we're all
That's
good.
hard.
Michelle's the other way though. My best friend, she tries to, come on, go after him. Come on, you know you want to. Like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. I want to always be the nice person. But I think this brings around to something that Adam had shared with me that he wanted us to talk about today was, didn't you want to talk about how other people and other cars in traffic that are driving, maybe you can word it, are perceiving us in our FSD cars? I think you wanted to bring that up today. And
No, it's just, we talk about this at work, or I talk about it at work. My coworkers or customers that I'm around, with all the FUD that happens, you know, there's a lot of misinformation and there's a lot of perception issues that happen with the cars, and it's just crazy. And you get in the car and you try to show them, and people are very anxious about the FSD, which, okay, I am too, you know, it's kind of mutual, but it's interesting to see how people react on the road when they're driving and they don't pay attention to the cars around them already. And when you have FSD cars doing things that sometimes are a little bit odd, that we've talked about, they don't catch on it, and they think somebody's being mean to them or disrespecting them in some way, and the car's not. It's just trying to do its thing and, you know, get there safe.
yeah, Ruby is not going to let you out if you're waiting on the right on this road during rush hour and you would like to help merging onto the street. Ruby's not going to wait there and basically flip the lights and tell you can get in front of her. I'm going to have to kick her out of the beta and, you know, give the driver a chance. Don has cautioned me against waving people that it's okay, but you can at least provide the window and they can decide if they feel it's safe to pull out in front of you or not. And so that's one example there. There's been a few times, I'm sure, that, you know, I try to just disengage, but you know how it is. You want to get home and the car's driving and the car, you know, and the people are like, well, why didn't they let me out? You could just tell. They're like, well, that they should have. There's Tesla drivers. They won't let me out and, you know, let me merge into traffic or something. So I've seen that happen.
Yeah. I think the other one is
really worried about people behind him thinking he's turning slow.
Oh, I think it's the one pedal driving is the other one. They fixed a lot of the brake light. If you aren't careful with your one pedal driving and you're doing on, off, you're flashing your brake lights all the time. And people don't like that because they think you're brake checking, and you're not. You're adjusting your vehicle speed that you need to do with a smooth throttle and not, you know, abrupt. Because the car's gotten better. It doesn't do the red light as much as it used to. It was much more sensitive before, but even then, so when you come out of the mountains here, we just use a lot of regen, but you have to be careful. If you just let the car do the regen, it's going to put the brake lights on. So you've got to feather the throttle a little bit to keep the car moving and keep the brake lights off. Otherwise, people get very irritated.
Huh.
I didn't even think about that, but you know what? There have been people who have looked at me like I'm a crazy person when I'm coming off our mountain and I'm in regen and I'm not hitting my brakes at all, but they're seeing a red light the whole time, right?
Right.
I did not even think about that.
Yeah.
I mean,
And it's a safety issue both
Yeah.
ways, because the car's trying to do the right thing and the people do not take it that way. They think you're brake
Right.
checking.
They have moved it more towards inertia instead of just simply we're going into regen. That's
It is a lot better.
inertia.
My biggest thing is when people are behind me and it's like the light's green, if it doesn't want to take off fast
oh,
enough,
that drives me nuts. Oh, I
And
hate
like-
that.
The
or if
beam
you
is
come
nice,
up to
though.
a stop sign way before the stop sign and then takes a minute before it starts creeping and people behind me are like, what the hell's wrong with this guy?
Well,
That I'm like giving it a little bit of an accelerator to try to get it.
and to me, the worst thing is it does the NHTSA stop at the stop signs, and you got all this traffic coming at you, and then it does that creep forward, which isn't really a creep anymore, and it freaks the people out because they think the car's about to pull out in front of them. The stop at the stop sign, and then that creep forward is freaking everybody out. It needs to be more combined. I can understand come to a complete stop, but it needs to be closer to the creep point, the end point.
Well, I'll say that also goes down to where the stop signs are placed. Some stop signs are placed way far back and before an intersection, and like the one I had trouble with today, it's way back, and then you have to creep up like another 100 feet before you get to the intersection.
But the creep's got to be done. Well, again, cameras in the headlights would solve a lot of that. Having to creep the damn cars so far forward to be able to see is freaking everybody out. It freaks the person in the car out. It freaks the traffic out because it's just not natural. You don't know what the car is doing. But
I have not changed my thought process. I still believe Elon is going to have a very difficult time getting a regulator to approve full self-driving when the regulator is sitting in the passenger seat and the car is driving and they go out, head across town. I guarantee you the regulator, they are not going to care how many lives get saved, how many nines there are behind it. The perception is this thing is crazy drunk driver extraordinaire. I mean, they just say no way, and we're going to approve this. So he's going to have to deal with the perception. People's perception of the car's behavior is going to have to be dealt with.
Well, I have heard. I don't know if anybody saw the new pictures of the Project Highland Model 3, the new refresh.
Yeah,
3.
Yes.
Supposedly, there's cameras in the front of that one.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting to see as more comes out with that. But if that's part of the hardware for, because I know hardware for computer has more coax lines for cameras too. So,
well, speaking of the elephant in the room, Elon, is it his stubbornness or whatever that he's all about all input is error? Okay, why in the hell am I pushing a button to say turn on windshield wipers or turn the heat up or down? Why can't I just say, hey, Tesla, like everybody else? Is it because he just doesn't want to do it because Google and Alexa does it? Is it? And then, the 3D camera view, he's the capacity to be able to look down, have that bird's eye view of the car is there. He won't do it. Is it just because he doesn't want to be doing something everybody else is doing? And then let me finish with this one. A good friend of ours lives in Japan. It's a Japanese couple, and Teslas are just starting in Japan, and she bought a Model 3, and it was a big move for her. She's scared to death of the thing. She's always driven Mercedes, very similar, but she had the car. She drove about 100 kilometers and backed into something. And we all know why, because Elon decided we didn't need ultrasonic sensors anymore. He was going to do it all with cameras, with vision. Now, I don't know if it was because there was a shortage in parts or because he just popped in a meeting somewhere and said, why can't we do this with cameras? Let's eliminate it. I don't know, but people are backing in and running over stuff constantly because he eliminated ultrasonics before he had vision. And the vision is just now rolling out in the States. It's not even available. She had to spend $1,500 to get her bumper fixed.
Wow.
And that was exactly what she said. She said, my Mercedes squawked at me and barked at me and told me I was about to back into something. And, you know, but the Tesla vision has promise of maybe being able to identify curves and lower things that ultrasonics, but
yeah.
You know, are we just going about this stuff because of his hubris or because of, you know, I don't
thought
get
that one was money. I thought that one was, we are going to lower the cost of the cars by removing these sensors that cost us X amount of money per car because we're going to stay competitive because we're going to drop the price. I thought that one was strictly as Monroe Wife explained, a cost savings thing to stay hyper competitive with our competitors on price.
But I think he did it too soon because the software update came out where it says the cameras are going to measure and kind of replace that.
Great goal.
That gap of where, like, I
think
have a certain person that we know that was.
If I had one of those cars that didn't have the stuff that Ruby has because he pulled it, and then I no longer had the stuff I have now while I waited for it to get fixed, I would be mad.
Yeah,
I would.
He's already building the cheapest cars ever built.
Yeah.
Right.
And how much cheaper can you make the damn things? I mean,
it'll be even cheaper in 6 months is fine when I have the software caught up with my cheaper goal. It's not okay to make people suffer without the stuff. I mean, I've backed up into something before with my Honda Odyssey. It doesn't have a backup camera. It's a 2006. And I was in a grocery store parking lot in New York and they had planters around the light pole. So I saw the light pole, but I didn't see the planter sticking out. And thankfully, the van just basically flat backed into the flat planter and didn't do a lot of damage. But like I learned a valuable lesson that day about things being back there. But
well, think about it. How many years? I mean, we didn't have backup camera, ultrasonic sensors. People drove backed up their car by turning their heads and looking behind them, using their mirrors, and so. Elon is saying to himself, cameras can do this. Cameras are enough. Now, I totally agree that he did it too quick. He didn't have the software. If you're going to do it, you need to probably have the software ready before you decontent it. But yeah, I think it is a money-saving thing, but I think it's classic problem Elon time. It's just his too optimistic for when we're going to have this done and available. And it's yet another example of him missing it.
Yeah.
And then, well, I want to say one thing, and I can prove this hands down. So my favorite feature that Elon kicked and screamed over, I heard him say time and time again, we will not do waypoints. And he added waypoints, and it is the greatest thing that he changed. He has made navigation. My God, Elon, you have saved my bacon. That is hands down the best feature you've added. Yeah, it was waypoints.
Well,
it's still working. It's still not as good as it ought to be because you add a waypoint and it puts it at the wrong.
That's right.
I mean, how hard is it to know? Well, I'm adding a waypoint.
The programmer that wrote the insertion part of the code obviously never used it to try to navigate from one place to the other or out and about around town and needed to add it to his trip or something.
They've never driven an automobile.
Yeah, there you go.
they don't have a driver's license. They live in
their
basement.
Right. Well,
Uber
you know what
does not do waypoints. Uber takes you from here to there. They don't have 3-stop Ubers. So that's why the kids writing the software, they never take anything but an Uber.
Well,
and their mom used to deal with
fair to say
Uber. Their mom dealt with how they got there. They didn't have to concern themselves.
I think it would be fair to say I would like it to be a requirement that all the people that work on the FSD team drive a Tesla daily. And I would be okay with
License. Just want a driver's license.
I would prefer them to have a driver's license, be over 21, and drive a Tesla, because how can you code a Tesla to optimally drive itself if you're not driving it all the time? And if that means Tesla's got to cut them a deal as part of their employment opportunity to put them in a Model 3, then God bless. I mean, I think, well, that one day last year we were at NC State, and this young kid, he told me he wanted to go to work for Tesla Autopilot team, and he had submitted his application to go, and he was like, I mean, not kidding, Andy, he was 19 or 20 years old, and I looked at him dead in the face as this old mom, you know, is like, please make sure that you actually drive a car using autopilot, that you tell them that it's not okay to be on the autopilot team if you don't have time behind the wheel using the software. That, and I really think he gave me a blank stare. I do. I like the thought that you would actually use what you're trying to code may have seemed irrelevant. So you're probably not far off. I'm definitely not thinking you're too far off, Andy, because I've had personal experience. I'm like, please tell them when you get out there, if you get hired, that you
get the same thing off a video
drive
game,
the
right?
cars. What, Adam?
It's not the
I've
same
driven
thing.
Grand
Video
Theft
game.
Auto on PlayStation. I know
Yeah,
how to.
PlayStation. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, just
Well, I
because
have
you
a
can do
lot of
flight
experience.
simulator doesn't make driving. Just because you could drive on a simulator doesn't mean you could drive
Well,
out there.
When I played Galaga and Robotron back in the day and could play for like over an hour straight and not die, I thought I was the princess of all video game and driving. So I get that. I'm young enough and old enough to get that mentality all at the same time of that's good enough. But yeah. All right. Well, I think we are getting close to, I mean, I had no exact time frame. I knew an hour was no way all of us getting talking, having a FSD chit chat. We're going to be done in an hour. And I put an hour and a half as a good guesstimate. We are approaching that. But I think, you know, it's always really easy to go around and we're throwing out experiences and things that are a problem. But I thought maybe we should just go around and say, you know, a couple of things, whatever you want to say as something that's good. So anybody watching that stuck with us to the end could, you know, we could end on a good feeling. And then we'll go around one more time and give everybody a chance to add anything that comes to mind that you didn't get to say while we were talking. So I really think I was going to go first about the FSD. And this latest release, I'm super thrilled now that she's taking me to the right when one lane goes to two. And it just so, well, first off, I prefer to be in the right lane because I'm not Mario Andretti through Freeway downtown. And even though the cops know me, they don't know me because the little red Tesla X lady speeds in our town. They know me because I play Pokemon Go. But anyways, taking me to the right now, it's making me a lot less nervous. It's putting me in the lane ahead of my right turn. I'm so happy that she did that. I was ecstatic because she was going through the intersection and staying left, and I needed to get right, and I couldn't get right because the driver behind me, well, what idiot would go through the intersection and not get in the right-hand lane? So that's really super cool. And you know, on the highway, we were, Andy and I had shared that we were worried about the messing up the highway stack, that we wouldn't be able to be as, feel as secure on the highway or as safe or as complacent or whatever word you want to insert there, because we were so happy with the highway stack that we didn't want that to get messed up. And I would say that I have noticed no degradation anytime that I was on the interstate with the merging of the two stacks, that I have managed to do the merging and not ruin the highway experience while continuing to improve the city experience. So I think that that is an awesome thing. And I love the waypoint stuff. I know it's not an FSD thing, but that has really been a huge improvement to me. And I demonstrate the use of it all the time. I've had a couple people reach out, wow, thanks for showing me how to use that, the math, like what are you doing to figure out how long can I shop at the store and still get downtown for Johnny at the same time? Do I have enough range to make all of the stops I think I need? So that's really cool. But I love the chime when the stoplight turns green. I was very upset the other day. It only misses it, I don't know, 2 times out of 100, it won't chime correctly, or it'll chime when it's really not my turn. But I would say that that is a very consistent feature. And I was upset the other day, though, that the guy behind me honked at me because I was looking at something on my phone because the car didn't chime. So I am totally dependent on that feature. I'll never drive another car but a Tesla anyway, but I cannot have a car that doesn't have that feature. If you haven't given it a try and you have a chance to like look at the flowers or talk to your passenger or anything else, your phone, that might distract you. If you haven't tried that, I would, as not just you guys, but any of our viewers, if you haven't tried that feature, I would say try it, because it helps to keep me out of trouble with my fellow drivers.
I agree.
So. Who's ready? Who'd like to go next?
Well, I would like to touch on something that we haven't discussed that I really appreciate, and that is, and I guess it's because of my age now, but driving at night, since the update even, seems better. I'm more confident driving at night. You know, it used to be like I really don't, do I really need this? Do I really need to run to the store for this? And just in the last, month or so, I've been hopping in the car and going after dark and feeling really comfortable coming back. And I think something had to do with the update, because I still have the problems around really sharp curves and stuff, but I'm more confident at night. And as we get older, we want our independence. And that was years ago when we first got the Tesla. That was my motivation, was to keep my independence. And
I say it all the time.
Right. And I'm seeing that. And like you, I would never imagine my life without a Tesla or a vehicle like a Tesla going forward. But my night driving has been far more enjoyable the last 2 months than it was a year ago. And I'm thankful for that. Yeah.
Well,
I sent an email to a reporter a few weeks ago and basically chastised him for circulating FUD and asking him why he felt the need to pick apart the software and all the people trying to make the software better, because we're all going to be older. We're all going to get to the point where we can't drive our vehicles safely anymore, where our family might be at the point where they, Johnny could have to say, hey, Mom, you can't see, you can't think, you can't drive anymore. Whereas with an autonomous vehicle, I may be able to continue to own a car and have independence, that I can get in the car and tell the vehicle where to take me to my doctor's appointment, less missed work hours for my children to have to come and look after me. All these reasons that I think, it's not just cool. FSD is not just cool. There's actually like real reasons why as a society it could be beneficial. And you said independence in driving at night. David pointed out, I'm driving in the rain and it's a little worrisome, but the car is really helping me stay safe during the storm. I've been in the car with Don where it's been pouring down rain and I was nervous, and autopilot was really helping him to continue to drive and drive well. So I think before people pick it apart or complain about it or don't understand, they should really step back and see what the value add might be if all of us are working so hard to complete the function, to try to get it.
Also, all the people that are writing this haven't been in a car that does the full self-driving. They're just writing it because they're writing it. They get in the car with somebody with full self-driving, and then maybe they'll see,
Well, and see, I began the Tesla journey before I had a prescription for glasses. That was just when that happened. And so my life, I had to figure out how to drive with glasses and all that stuff. Never wore glasses before in my life. And when I got the Tesla, there was a huge difference in terms of my confidence, at night and stuff. And again, since the update, I see more. And it's been what has driven me to try to figure out stuff about the car. Like you said, at some point, we're not going to be as independent in a lot of ways, but this is a tool. If I learn it now, then I'll stay on the road longer, hopefully. And I've seen that.
Yeah, I agree.
I guess I'll go next. Since we've gotten the Teslas, we've done these 5 trips to Florida and 4 trips out west. Yeah, I'm not a person to ride in a car. and to drive, I drive a lot because I go to South Carolina a lot to work. I have to travel for work, but to go on road trips, I would have never considered doing it. And I mean, we own Mercedes, we own really nice cars, but I would have never road tripped. And so with saying that, I can't imagine driving anything but a Tesla now. And with the capabilities that go along with it. I don't think that I could. I think I would have a very tough time going on a 400 or 500 mile road trip in a Mercedes or a Toyota or whatever, just to take off and drive a car. I can be very critical of it, but I'm blown away with how far the technology has come and how far they've gotten it. The big frustration I've got is it's the simple things that they have so much trouble with, that they struggle so much with. I think their teams are so wrapped up in this high level technology, and that they don't necessarily drive the cars or talk to people, common people that drive it. One of the biggest problems I think with design overall is not observing users of the product. And because what makes perfect sense to you, because you work with it all day long, every day, you're immersed in it. You can't see the forest for the trees. But to go get somebody off the street, pop them in a Tesla and watch them try to figure out how to drive it. Watch them figure out how to navigate and how to use waypoints, and learn those things. But I worship the ground Elon Musk walks on. I'm as big a disciple of him and what he's trying to do and what he has accomplished as you can get. So, I can talk negatively about a lot of this stuff, but I'm blown away by it. And how, when you put it in reference of how quick we've gotten here, first Teslas were built in, 2012.
Yep.
And here we are basically 10 years later, and we've got cars that are, for all practical purposes, driving themselves. I'm very much a supporter of the whole thing.
I mean, we've got a family member who's 80 plus years old who just drove from the coast to his home in the mountains. And I don't think that, I'm not being disparaging of him by any means, but we would not have the confidence in his being able to do it were he in any other vehicle.
I think he's much safer in the car for sure.
Yeah.
Anybody is.
Yeah.
Well, you might remember I had I think botched is a fair word, FSD camera upgrade in Ruby. It took, 5 or 6 service visits and 8 months. I'd have to go add it up with no autopilot for more than a couple of brief blips at a time. And I was about to go insane having to drive the car. If I didn't love my X as much, I would have parked and started driving the Y more. Or if I'd have been a year earlier where the sciatica down the right side was as painful. For a while, I couldn't keep my foot on the accelerator. I was in a lot of pain. So I was really relying on, at that time, I was using traffic aware cruise control more. But so I've gone without it after having it. And that is not anywhere, like you said, Andy, that I ever want to go again. So I've been there and I don't want to go through that again. Yeah. When you had your X get wrecked and you had the 3, you went out and you got the Y, you were not going to go without that driver assistance for any amount of time while you waited on the new X. It was, so I know, too, you're just not going to go back to not driving like that. Did you have something, David?
Yeah, I'll just kind of echo on what everybody else has said. Even though we've been talking about some of the simple things that the car can't do or is making mistakes on, but it's still, even in the just over a year I've been driving with it, it's been huge improvements. Highway is fantastic, and I think driving at night, highways, it's FSD at night is even better.
Even better.
I mean, I think it's better than daytime. It's for some reason, it's almost flawless at night. So, and then just every little thing that they're doing, improvements is just, mind blowing. I give someone a ride 5 minutes in the car and they're like, I want to get one.
Yeah. I mean,
for example, my friend, his girlfriend's like, we'll never buy a Tesla. I gave her a ride in it the other week. Okay, we should buy a Tesla. Yeah. I mean, a 10-minute ride in the car. showing herself driving and launching it, and she was blown away. It's like, okay, this is the coolest thing ever. And like me, like you guys, I will never go back to driving anything else but a Tesla. You know, I hopefully next year I'll be able to get a Cybertruck, and that'll be the last car I ever need to buy, and because that thing should last forever. And so yeah, I'm also very much Team Elon for both Tesla and SpaceX.
Yeah. For me, the highway driving has gotten so much better. We just did a road trip to St. Louis from here. It's easy. Between the supercharging, you just pull in. People always they poo-poo the whole thing, and it's like, I can't imagine you stopping all this time. And it's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I still have to go to the bathroom. I still need to walk. I got to eat. I got to do all these things, and they all, Tesla's got it set up where, it all happens when my body needs to do what it needs to do. The cars are comfortable. You get in the car. It's not that you get sleepy per se, but you relax and you can just enjoy the drive. You enjoy the car doing its thing. The sound systems in the car, they're very enjoyable as well. Even if you turn it off, the quietness part of it is also enjoyable. So the cars are nice. The city driving, it is getting better. The visualizations pieces of it they're getting better and better. So, and then like what David's saying, best part is if you can get somebody that wants to drive your car, you can get them in to drive it. That's even more hooked. It's done. It's a sold deal because they're blown away. The one pedal driving, people they poo-poo it until they try it, and they're like, why doesn't every car drive this way?
Yep.
And that's it. I don't know. It works so well. It works well.
That's why Tesla doesn't advertise, because we advertise for them.
Yeah.
And the product sells itself. I mean, it is a phenomenal product.
Yeah, it's fun. The other thing with the X is the Falcon doors.
Yeah,
that stuff is so much fun. It's just fun. Everywhere you go, they look at you, and you I've got the key fob on my phone, and I pop, I open the doors for them. You do that, and they just stand back and they're in awe of the whole thing. Of that is the craziest thing, and you go, yeah, but it's cool. It's nice. You get in, you can step right into the back seat. There's nothing to step around. Yeah.
We're headed to the farm.
And above all, we've got fart mode.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So on that one, I love watching the phone when Michelle takes the Y. She goes, because the Y is the best. She'll go to the concert. She'll go someplace and be in a parking garage, and I can watch the cameras on the car through my phone, and I watch people come up, and I'll start hitting the little exhaust button.
Start
Yeah, and I'll start doing the emissions on the car, and yeah, it's hilarious and fun for me, even though I'm not there. So
yeah. Well, I would just say that I love Tesla. Obviously, I'm Elon fanboy. I would never bet against Elon. I've probably been critical FSD, but I would tell you I see the progress it's made. I am absolutely convinced that it is going to work. There will be autonomous cars, and it won't be that far off. Maybe not as soon as we'd hope, but I am sold on it. And I would like to. David brought a good point about it at night. So Johnny and I went to Johnson City, Tennessee. Those at night, it was raining, and it was at night, to those twisty mountain roads that I have never driven on that road in my life.
The last hour of getting there.
Yeah.
From our house.
Yeah. And I had full self-driving on. I slowed down to the speed limit, and it worked really well. In most cases, other than some of the hairpin turns. But the point I'd like to make is the next day when we came home, it was in the daylight. And I saw the way those rocks overhung the road on some of those curves. And it's like, I never saw those rocks last night. And it's like, I don't know. I probably, if I would have driven it myself, I would have jogged at the wrong time, and I think I would have hit the mirror, would have hit those rocks or whatever, because those right up to the edge of the, like Andy said, there's the white line, and then there's oblivion. I mean, there is nothing but danger on the other side of that. As soon as you cross that white line, there's nothing good over there. And so FSD did all that. So I will never drive anything, but I'll own anything but a Tesla. Absolutely.
Yeah, I felt really bad on Friday when there were not one, but then 2 Teslas pulled over on the side of the road because of Ruby's flat. I kept on thinking, God, everybody that comes by thinks I ran out of charge or thinks I've had some sort of a mechanical malfunction and
Bad
what the
PR.
heck is
Way to
going
go.
on? Huh?
Just bad PR.
Right. I was really upset. Like, please get me off the side of the road. Well, hopefully people, as they went by, they saw the tire was flat because it
was noticeable. You could tell
it was very noticeable, but I'm like, it's not Tesla's fault I got the flat. Some people like to say it is because I guess it's a heavy car or, because you're in a forum with a lot of other drivers, you hear about flat tires. It makes it seem like Teslas have more flats. I had 2 flats in my van prior, in the years leading up to, it may be more before that, but when Don was involved in the years leading up to driving Ruby, one was a really large metal razor blade was in the van tire. I ruined the van tire, had less than 1,200 miles on it. So I'm just saying it wasn't
Doesn't
Ruby's
matter
fault.
what car you drive. If you run over something in the road, you're gonna get flat.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, start watching for the flatbed tow trucks, because if you notice those towing guys, they're making a fortune. They're everywhere. Because basically nowadays cars, they don't have spares.
Nope.
This is not unique to Tesla. Maybe the SUVs still all have spares, but the cars themselves, a lot of them do not have spares.
Well, my vehicle before my Tesla was a 2015 Jeep Cherokee. And I bought that thinking there was a spare underneath the back. I got a flat. I go over there. I lift up and there's no spare. And I'm calling Jeep. I'm like, what the hell? Where's my spare tire? It's like, oh, we don't put spares in anymore. I'm like, why? Because it cuts down on the EPA rating.
That's right.
I'm like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
But
Now I have to get my car towed to Jeep so they can put a new tire on.
That's
but
right.
the spares back in the day, though, they were the best tire from your former set that you would have the guy pull the spare out, maybe, and check for dry rot or tread wear, which one's better, put it on. And then you'd go to put it on and it would be flat back there because you hadn't looked at it in 2 or 3 years. Or, the spare, it sounds good, but I ain't changing a tire. I don't want Ruby to have a spare. Don's coming or the tow truck's coming. My father did the pretense of showing me how to change a tire. I get it. You got to loosen up the lug nuts while it's still mostly got its weight on it. And then, after you get them loose, you can lift it up and take the lug nuts off. I don't know. I've never changed a tire. And you know what? I'm not changing a tire in my lifetime. Not unless we have the real end of the world and I don't have any way to flee town but to put a new tire on or something.
Jacking a 3-ton Tesla up on the side of the road with a hand jack is not going to be an easy tool.
Well, Don was going to come if he didn't, if I'd have been in a church parking lot, Don could have put the real jack in the GMC and come up there or something. That's a little different, but thank God we thought better of fooling with it on the side of the road. So
hopefully soon we'll have flying cars and the cars will be maglev levitating down the road. We won't have to worry about tires.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, my biggest hope is that human beings aren't driving cars very much longer.
There you go.
Kids born today will never need to get a driver's license.
Kids born today don't want to drive, so it may not be as far-fetched a concern. And let me just say, and me having the flat and being on the side of the road last week, that didn't help. Kids see that, they don't want to deal with that. They just don't. So it just did nothing to help anything. Okay, it wasn't mom's fault. I never saw the piece of
I got my learner's permit. Get me out of here. Let me drive.
Yeah. My parents basically never saw me after I got my driver's license. I was down there on my birthday, 100 on that written test. Wowed the police officer in the car with me that I could drive the car. Bye, see ya. So
he got his driver's license and he took me out to. We went to the movie that Friday night after
I got my driver's license.
Wow.
Okay.
wow.
Yeah, you were driving your dad's.
Oh, that's great.
How
Mark, move, Andy.
Yeah, well,
He doesn't remember, but I do.
So
How
that's
many
okay.
years have you
You
been
do.
together?
Yeah,
Listeners.
yeah.
I remember going to the movie, but I remember the sequence with my driver.
You got your driver's license.
Okay.
Yeah.
I bow to your
Yeah.
memory. I have no memory. That's why I need a car that drives itself.
That's right. It needs the
It
memory.
needs a memory.
We saw FM.
Yes, I know. I was getting ready to say the movie, so I knew the movie.
She's not
Alrighty.
testing you, Andy. She promises. She just a fond memory of
That's right.
a prior lifetime ago for all of us. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
all right. Well, anybody have anything? Last thing before we go, I thank you for your time. I hope our viewers enjoy watching our conversation as much as I enjoy getting back together with you guys. This is awesome. I mean, we do the texting back and forth on the phone about, yeah, I got the new release, or no, I don't have it yet, or yeah, it did this crazy thing. But I think it's nice to sit down and capture some of that stuff and share it, because I often think that other people would be interested if they knew some of the conversations we were having about this, that, or the other. So I try not to throw you under the bus when I'm talking about the video, but your name might come up from time to time about something we've said. So
All right. Really
Go
appreciate it. y'all.
Starship.
Yeah.
huh?
Go Starship.
You go Starship.
Oh, yeah, that's
Absolutely.
Tomorrow morning,
Absolutely.
I will be
Yeah,
up
well,
very early.
I'll be driving my Starship. You remember my license plate. So hopefully I'll look like the biggest SpaceX fangirl.
Yeah.
I already told them, now, no, guys, I'm not going to be editing until a little bit later in the day because I'm watching the Starship.
Me and you both. I'll be doing that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, if I'm on the road or whatever's happening, y'all do that for me, but or send me messages because I really do care. I just, yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. And, I'll probably hit you up later in the year for us to get back together. Hopefully you enjoyed chatting too. And I really appreciate your time on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah. Thank y'all.
All right.
All righty.
You guys take
Bye-bye.
care now. Bye.
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 Right?
Go Tesla.
Go Tesla.